Stoicism is a timeless philosophy that offers a guide to living a resilient, peaceful life. Even though it was founded over 2,000 years ago, its principles remain as relevant today as they were in ancient Greece and Rome. The Stoics didn't promise that life would be free of adversity, but they did teach us how to navigate life's challenges with strength, clarity, and equanimity. In a world that seems to be constantly changing, Stoicism provides a foundation that allows us to maintain inner peace no matter what happens on the outside. One of the most central ideas in Stoicism is learning to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. The Stoics argue that we waste a tremendous amount of energy worrying about things outside our control, other people's actions, the weather, the state of the economy, and in doing so, we lose our peace of mind. Instead, they teach us to focus on what is within our power, our own thoughts, our reactions, and our choices. As Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This insight is simple but incredibly profound. Consider how much of your daily frustration and stress comes from external events or circumstances. You might get stuck in traffic, or your plans might be interrupted by something outside your control. In those moments, it's easy to feel powerless, angry, or frustrated. But the Stoics remind us that we can choose how to respond. We may not be able to change the situation itself, but we can control our reaction. It's this choice that lies at the heart of Stoicism. The ability to choose our thoughts, our actions, and our attitude, no matter what the world throws at us. Another key idea in Stoicism is that our suffering often comes from our interpretations of events, not the events themselves. Think about a time when you've experienced disappointment or pain. Was it the actual event that caused you the most suffering, or was it the meaning you attached to it? For example, you might miss a job opportunity and feel that you're a failure. But is missing that opportunity really an indication of your worth? The Stoics would argue that it's not the external event that determines your happiness, but the way you interpret it. By changing your perspective, you can transform your experience. In fact, the Stoics suggest that we actively work on cultivating a mindset that is detached from external circumstances. Instead of becoming entangled in emotional reactions, we are encouraged to step back and examine the bigger picture. The Stoics don't advocate for repressing emotions or denying feelings. Rather, they teach us to acknowledge them and then decide how to respond in a way that aligns with our values. For instance, you might feel anger when someone insults you, but you don't have to act on that anger. You can choose to respond with patience, understanding, or even indifference. By practicing this, we create a space between stimulus and response, allowing us to respond with wisdom rather than being driven by instinct or emotion. At the core of Stoic practice is the idea that adversity and challenges are not things to fear, but things to embrace. The Stoics believe that life is full of difficulties and setbacks, but rather than seeing these as obstacles, we are encouraged to view them as opportunities for growth. As Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, famously said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This shift in perspective is incredibly powerful. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the Stoics ask, "What can I learn from this?" Each challenge, no matter how difficult, becomes a chance to build resilience, patience, and wisdom. In this way, Stoicism helps us transform life's hardships into stepping stones on the path to becoming our best selves. Another powerful concept in Stoicism is the practice of virtue as the highest good. Virtue, in Stoic terms, means living in alignment with nature and reason, and it is the only true source of happiness. For the Stoics, external wealth, fame, and pleasure are not inherently bad, but they are not reliable sources of true contentment. These are things outside our control, and they come and go. What we can control is our character and how we respond to life's circumstances. A virtuous life, one guided by wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, provides lasting fulfillment, regardless of external events. The Stoics teach us that our thoughts and actions should be guided by reason, not by fleeting emotions or desires. For instance, when we feel fear or anxiety about an uncertain future, we can counter those feelings with reason. Instead of panicking about what might happen, we can ask ourselves, what is within my power to influence, and what is not? If something is out of our control, we must practice letting it go, focusing instead on what we can do right now. It's this clarity of thought and deliberate action that allows Stoics to remain calm in the face of life's unpredictability. A fundamental aspect of Stoicism is the idea of amor fati, or love of fate. This concept encourages us to embrace whatever happens in life with open arms, including the difficult and painful experiences. It's a radical acceptance of life as it unfolds, free of resistance or resentment. Instead of wishing things were different, the Stoics teach us to accept reality as it is, understanding that everything, even suffering, has a purpose in our development. One of the most profound ways this idea plays out is through the practice of negative visualization. This is a technique where, instead of focusing solely on our desires and hopes, we take time to reflect on what we could lose, whether it's health, loved ones, or possessions, and contemplate how we would cope with such losses. By imagining these worst-case scenarios, we prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally for the inevitable challenges of life. Far from making us anxious, this practice helps us to appreciate what we have right now, knowing that nothing is guaranteed. Stoicism also teaches us the importance of self-discipline and self-control. It's easy to get swept up in the emotions of the moment, to react impulsively, or to give in to our desires. But the Stoics urge us to practice restraint and develop the strength to act according to reason, rather than being controlled by immediate urges. This isn't about denying ourselves pleasure, but about choosing what is truly beneficial and in line with our long-term well-being. Whether it's resisting the temptation to overeat, procrastinate, or lash out in anger, Stoicism gives us the tools to exercise self-mastery. At the same time, Stoicism encourages us to be present and appreciate the moment we are in. The Stoics are often misunderstood as advocating for emotional detachment, but in reality, they teach us to experience life deeply, just without attachment. We are not meant to suppress emotions or disconnect from what's happening around us. Rather, we are encouraged to fully engage with life, to live intentionally, and to appreciate the beauty of each moment, whether it's in the smallest of things or the biggest of challenges. By practicing gratitude, we shift our focus from what we lack to what we already have. This simple but powerful practice helps us to see life not as a series of burdens, but as a gift to be embraced. Every day, the Stoic asks themselves, what can I be thankful for? How can I turn this moment, no matter how difficult, into an opportunity for growth and virtue? Stoicism is not a one-time fix for life's problems. It's a continuous practice that requires commitment and dedication. Like any skill, it gets stronger the more we use it. And the more we practice Stoicism, the more we develop the inner peace and resilience necessary to face the uncertainties of life with grace. So, as you go about your day, take a moment to reflect on the teachings of Stoicism. Remember, it's not the events themselves that determine your happiness, but your response to them. By practicing wisdom, courage, and self-discipline, and by embracing life's challenges as opportunities, you can cultivate a life of meaning and tranquility, no matter what comes your way.